Being here.
Thank you, Brett. It's good to be back in person, in studio, the first time in 18 months.
You know, you just heard that piece about China. You've spoken out about the concerns about China's aggression. Are we at a different level now here with China?
Yeah, I think China has taken President Biden's measure and found it lacking. You know, the president went to the United Nations General Assembly last week and gave a speech in which he refused to even say China's name. He said that we don't seek a Cold War, which of course we don't. The United States would never seek a war of any kind, hot or cold. But if China is waging a Cold War against us, as they have by taking our jobs and factories for the last 30 years, by conducting espionage throughout the United States, by rapidly building up their military to counteract ours in the Pacific, our choice is not whether we seek it, our choice is whether we win it. And right now, I don't think Joe Biden is up to the task.
Is China beating us on the technology military front right now?
I would say they're rapidly closing the gap, Brett. In some areas, they may in fact have reached parity. And security competition between nations is not like a 100-meter dash. It's not enough to win just by a nose, because you embolden aggressors like China to take a shot at the title. You want our military to be so strong. You want our intentions to preserve our national interests and international ability be so clear that aggressors like the Chinese Communist Party would never even consider taking that shot at the title.
You know, people in Taiwan watching this all very closely, and the president was asked specifically about Taiwan. Take a listen.
I don't want a Cold War with China. I just want to make China understand that we are not going to step back. We are not going to change any of our views.
So are you saying that the United States would come to Taiwan's defense if China attacked?
Yes, we have a commitment to do that.
President Biden is deeply committed to the Taiwan Relations Act. The United States will continue to assist Taiwan in maintaining a sufficient self-defense capability. There is no change in that policy.
So essentially, they had to walk that back, and then you have a war game that was played out. This is from the Washington Post. The United States has very few credible options to respond if China were to seize a set of islands administered by Taiwan in the South China Sea, underscoring the need for Washington and Taipei to build deterrence against limited Chinese aggression, according to the results of a war game conducted recently by foreign policy experts in Washington and the Asia-Pacific region. The standoff has spotlighted the challenge U.S. commanders would face in responding to an incursion of the islands without provoking a full-blown war. So that walk back was essentially to say, we're back to the policy that we had, but it sounds like it's a policy that's in jeopardy.
Yeah, Brett, it was an embarrassing walk back. What the president should do is make it clear that the United States will support Taiwan if mainland China attacks Taiwan. That war game is probably correct when it says if China seizes those islands, we have few credible options. That's why it's so important to establish the deterrent up front that they don't seize the islands. We have several other steps we can take to support Taiwan, like helping them build up their cyber defenses and train their reserve forces, providing them with missiles and sea mines, all of which would help deter an invasion of Taiwan. But most importantly, we need to make it clear that the United States will support democracy in Taiwan and stand up to Chinese attack. That's the simplest way to deter that attack from happening in the first place.
A couple more foreign policy things. One is this administration wants to get back to the table with Iran. Your thoughts on that?
Well, I think the administration is not just trying to get to the table with Iran. They've been trying to surrender for the last 7 months to Iran, but the Ayatollahs won't accept the terms of surrender. And in the meantime, they're rapidly building up their nuclear capability while also continuing to support their proxies attacking the United States and our allies across the region. The time for diplomacy on the nuclear program has ended. Iran is using diplomacy to build up their nuclear program. We need to enforce all the sanctions that are in place. We need to impose new sanctions, and we need to make clear that we will not tolerate the kinds of attacks we saw last week on American base by Iranian proxies.
What do you say to somebody who listens to you on China and Iran and says, listen, I don't want to get into a war?
Brett, if you've actually seen the face of war, if you've had to carry off your battle buddies from an airplane at Dover Air Force Base when they've died overseas, you're the last person that wants to see another war. But the most effective way of preserving peace throughout the ages, in the words of George Washington, is to be prepared for war and to deter aggressors like the Ayatollahs in Tehran or Xi Jinping in China.
All right, domestically, there is a lot of optimism and some confidence that these bills are somehow going to get through and it's all going to come together. Your sense as a senator of what you see on the Democratic side, because Republicans are pretty united in standing up against this.
Well, I would say the Democrats seem to be in disarray, but that would imply that they were once in array on this. And that's because they don't have the votes to pass their bills right now because their bills are not popular. Just look at their latest gambit to include a massive amnesty for millions of illegal aliens, which would include welfare benefits and Obamacare and housing aid and heating aid. And their argument is they can include those immigration measures in what is fundamentally a budget bill because they are going to spend billions of dollars on illegal aliens. That's not a very popular position with the American people, and that's why the Democratic caucus up in the Congress right now is a hotbed of cold feet on that issue and so many others.
But do you think that moderates are going to go for these tax pay-fors that are being structured kind of at the last minute?
I don't know if they're going to be able to find the money to pay for this bill. I suspect in the end they would deficit finance. I think the main sticking points would be what this bill is going to spend the money on when you look at welfare for illegal aliens or welfare for households that don't have a single breadwinner, not even someone looking for work, not someone training for work, which rolls back the accomplishments of the 1996 welfare bill that Bill Clinton and congressional Republicans passed. Those things are massively unpopular. They're very bad policy, and they're going to cause a lot of Democrats to balk at this bill.
A lot of political watchers are saying Republicans are in a good position policy-wise now heading into 2022. Do you think former President Trump is going to run for president?
I don't know. I haven't speculated about what's going to happen in 2024, but I do agree that the critical election we face next year is the midterm elections, and the most critical election we face in the meantime is the Virginia and New Jersey governor's races. Those races are very close. I think they're going to be an early bellwether for what would be a very strong Republican victory next year because of the massively unpopular Democratic agenda that's going on across the street right now.
If he doesn't get in, will you consider?
Brett, I'm working right now for those races next week and then the races next year. I'm not going to speculate about 3 races out from now.
I figured we're in person. All right, Senator, thank you.